So we're half human and half extraterrestrial. We're hybrids.
I'm Paul, and I love aliens. I posted my very first YouTube video in early 2018 in hopes of becoming the next it girl, like My Life as Ava, Alicia Marie, and Laura DIY. I cannot tell you how many times I watched their influencer girls trips, especially My Life as Ava's Bora Bora trip. I've watched that more than I've seen in the tall grass, and that's a lot. I began my journey here by posting vlogs, 5-minute long makeup tutorials, and even some playlist videos. And then I got super camera shy once I realized that other people aside from my friends could see my videos and perceive me. So I stopped. And in late 2022, I got some motivation and was inspired to post my very first lookbook of many. And ever since then, I've been on my girl bossing grind. If you have not seen the title, well, this is my 50th video, and I'm super excited for today's video because it is going to be an intergalactic, out-of-this-world DIY full of many upcycled, repurposed, and even some hand-sculpted pieces. So if that ignites your laser beam, then be sure to stay tuned. And watch out!
She's flipped up with these horrible DIYs. She's turning these flimsy flops into fierce fixes. This is Flipper Upper.
Before we get started with today's DIY, I am urging you to visit the links in my bio to 1. Check your voter registration status, and 2. To stay up to date on the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Palestine, Sudan, and East Turkistan, as well as the modern-day slavery and child labor that is happening in the Congo. Please make sure that you are registered to vote, use your voice, use your platform, and use your privilege. A few weeks ago, I scored this super sleek and otherwise spacecraft-looking grow light on Marketplace for just $8. As I was setting it up and I placed it within my very struggling ZZ plant, I then instantly noticed that, hey, that looks like a UFO. And I know it's not super visible now. I'll throw up a little B-roll when it's nighttime and it's dark. But the light coming down very much resembles tractor beams or laser beams. I can't do it. But right then and there, I knew that I had to zhuzh this up to make it into an intergalactic, out-of-this-world spacecraft UFO. My very first thought was to create a mini alien that could sit at the very top of the UFO. And from there, I began to sketch out a rather fabulous idea that had been brewing in my brain. As I sketched my design and jotted my notes, I gazed up into my mirror on the wall and conjured the most brilliant idea of them all. For the top of the UFO, the dome, top, the lid, the cap, I instantly thought of using a milkshake lid. Uh-oh, it looks like I'm gonna have to go get a milkshake. To construct this intergalactic idea, I visited my forever growing pile of gizmos and gadgets galore, aka a pile of random trinkets and crafting materials that I've been saving to make a teeny tiny project, which I do plan on sharing on this channel sometime in the future. And in addition to all of those gizmos and gadgets, I'm also going to be dabbling with some air dry clay. Not sponsored, but I'm super excited for this because I have not dabbled with sculpting or clay, anything like that, in literally over half a decade now, and that is so sad. So, let's get into it! You might have noticed my glistening anime eyes. Well, actually not even 5 minutes after filming this intro, my immune system decided to hit the hay and the Mucinex man had a visit. But as they say, the grind never stops. Here's a quick overview of my UFO blueprints. I wanted to include elements from some of my favorite aliens and spacecrafts. So, on the top of the saucer, you'll notice bold orange lines that are meant to resemble the flimsidifer, otherwise known as the flint lockwood diatonic supermutating dynamic food replicator. I also really wanted to include some of my fabulous flair that we see in the Doodlebob's bus, because they are definitely not human. So, I added some paisley designs and bubbles all around. And on the very top, I wanted to add a rather illuminating touch with some faux string lights inspired from the killer clowns from outer space, which I highly recommend watching along with every other piece of content shown in my intergalactic intro. Time to begin the saucer. I tried a few different large circle objects, but ended up using a trusty embroidery hoop. I then centered up the grow light and traced that, and to my surprise, the milkshake lid was precisely the size of the inner circle. I went through some more building materials and found the perfect solution for the saucer. Since I wanted sturdiness, but also a thinner piece of material, I opted for a cardboard box. I then attempted to trace and press down on the circle to imprint it onto the cardboard, and this definitely took a few tries, but I finally transferred the design. I then cut out the circle with scissors, and the inner circle with a blade. After arranging the pieces, I then discovered that I will need an additional piece, so I doubled that inner circle recipe. In order to attach the inner circles, I first have to punch out yet another circle in the middle of the inner circle. It's very simple to do, and all you need is a pencil and a sturdy hand, and of course, something to cut out the circle. The bottom circle needs a little extra trimming so that it can fit through. And just like that, it's a perfect fit. No tape or glue needed. The saucer is looking good, but it could look better. I grabbed a pair of these scallop scissors and tested them out on the same piece of cardboard. Success! Now it's time to scallop the saucer. Oh, what's that painting? Perhaps I'll have to give you an art tour so you can see the finished piece. But anywho, it's time to paint. I began with a white base on all the pieces to make the next layer pop, but mainly to cover up the logos, although that didn't really work out well. After that dried, I mixed up my own shade of sky blue paint and applied that to one side of both of the inner circles, as well as one side of the large saucer piece. For the bottom of the saucer, I wanted to look as though the saucer was blending into the night sky, kind of like in Chicken Little. And of course, I can never stray away from my love from the 60s and 70s aesthetic, so I drew some space-age style stars, which I love. On the bottom two pieces, I began to paint on the space-age stars. This took a very hot minute, and they were looking very, very shabby, and I wanted to give up. But as Cooking Mama would say, keep it up! After those dried, I went in with the same sky blue shade and a thin brush to clean up the stars, and to accentuate the points, which I'm very glad I did, because look at that before and after. Because the other side of the saucer piece was still not fully covered with paint, and I did not want to add any more weight by adding more layers, I went back to that piece of paper that I used to trace the saucer, and I used that. It's already the perfect size and a blank canvas. So I went to town resketching my UFO design. At this moment in time, I had an inkling that the glow-in-the-dark stars would just not work. And I was right. My original plan was to add the white highlights around the stars, but then my assistant gave me the stellar idea of using that gorgeous green shade on the stars for some highlights. This turned out so incredibly cute, and that extra pop of color adds so much. Back to the top of the saucer. I went to town with the colored pencils, and good thing I've been getting so much practice these past few weeks with my coloring book live stream series. Shameless plug, go check out this super relaxing ASMR series, linked below. I began with light layers, probably applying 3 layers before going in with a very heavy hand for the final layer. I recommend doing this so that you can easily avoid mistakes. The color buildup looks more cohesive, but also just pushing the first layer can exaggerate the paper's texture, which I did not at all want. After doodle-bopifying the design, I went in with a very similar shade of green that I used to highlight the stars for the background. This was the perfect addition to the saucer, and it really made the other colors pop. And then I attempted to spin it. After all the color was applied, it's now time to cut it out and stick it to the cardboard saucer. Here's a reminder to clean your glue after every use. I applied some glue and left it to dry overnight. When it was dry, I went back in with the scallop scissors to remove the excess paper, though using a blade is definitely necessary with the added glue. Time to take a little break from the saucer and get into the alien and her tractor beam cow. I'm glad I have so many little critters ootin' and boot in my room because the calico critter was way too big, so I opted for one of these little eraser koalas that I had. My clay setup is quite interesting, and as always, I'm just using what I have. And honestly, you don't even need special ceramic tools to do this. I've been watching Sam and Fishu here on YouTube, and they start their figurines out with a skeleton. I've seen some people use tin foil, wire, and some even both, and honestly, I should have started with a wire body to really get the shape down, but nonetheless, it still turned out pretty well. I tried to stab the pencil in to make a neck hole, and it kinda worked, but not really. But that's nothing a little glue can fix. But don't use school glue. Use hot glue or super glue, unless you really want to wait an extra 24 hours. I then sculpted the cow's skeleton, which went out much better, and then topped the alien off with a luxurious tinfoil robe. Now, in order to get the best use of clay, it's very necessary that I need to knead the clay. I need it! No, seriously, kneading clay will make your whole day a lot brighter. It reduces air bubbles, which reduces cracking, which reduces stress. It's wild. However, make sure that you're applying the right amount of thickness. I applied too little, which then resulted in major cracks. I have not used air dry clay in a very long time, and this was very sticky. I think my hands were probably too dry, and then I added too much water, which made it slip. Oh, speaking of slip, you'll notice that yogurt cup to the right of the screen. And I was not dining on that. It's actually just a cup of watered down clay, called slip. Basically, you use this as an adhesive when attaching clay to clay. It also works wonderfully to patch cracks and dents. I know the time-lapse doesn't really pick up everything, and I do apologize for not getting more close-ups, but basically I just kept building the clay up around the skeleton. Don't rush this. Take your time building up the shape. The alien's hair was really something else. I changed up my original sketch design to do coils instead of curlicues, and this worked out pretty well, but as you will see later on, I should have made those a tad thicker because they just cracked right off. And I almost forgot this very crucial step. Because the cow is going to be sucked up by a laser beam, I cannot forget to add a little jump ring to hang it. Good thing I remembered this before the clay dried. As the clay began to dry, but before it got rock hard, I went in with a pencil to chisel out some depth and to revive any detail that was lost. The figurines are still looking pretty at this point, so it's time to add more clay. I actually used my pencil once more to get into the tiny crevices, and this worked really well. After all of this girl bossing and sickness, I wanted to watch a really good movie, so we watched The Secret Life of Pets, and of course, The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Hey! Has anyone seen Secret Life of Pets 2? It's actually funny!
The next day, the figurines were all patched and dried, but they were looking very questionable, so I went in with some fine grit sandpaper. I recommend using paper like this so that you can bend it and get it into all those little crevices. But don't go too hard, otherwise you'll snap off a strand of hair. I reattached the hair strand and reinforced the cow's jump ring with some super glue and let those dry for the next 24 hours. While those little guys were on the drying rack, I went back to the UFO to assemble it. The inner circles just popped right in and are secure without any glue or tape. However, the saucer on top needs some help. So I just used a little chunk of this poster tack to attach the lid and a few loops of washi tape to secure the saucer to the light itself. After popping the saucer onto the pole, it's now time to add some lights. I saved this for last because I had no clue as to how I would go about this, so instead of putting in any effort, I just put it off. However, I did find a 2-foot long strand of party beads or necklaces, which worked out perfectly. I cut that into 6 equal strands and used a dab of hot glue to attach them to the pole and to each other. Hot glue can easily be removed from just about anything, so I'm not at all worried about this if it needs to be taken off. Now that the figurines are dried and smooth, it's time to apply paint, or glaze, whatever you want to call this step. I began with more of a minty blue shade for the alien skin, although I went back in over that with more of a warm tone mossy green, which I definitely prefer. As that dried, I painted the entire cow white to cover the orange hue that was left from the glue, and to give a smooth base for the rest of the paint. I kinda wish I had done this with the alien as well, but it worked out in the end. Now it's time to paint this giant beehive octopus looking hair. I mixed a beautiful shade of bubblegum pink and applied that all over the hair. I also used that same shade to cover the cow's snout and ears. then painted the cow with a dark gray and used black for the eyes and nostrils. As that dried, I went in with a sky blue for the robe and added her eyes and lashes. Back to the UFO. I used leftover fabric pieces from when I DIY'd my very own fairy wings for a self-portrait, and these looked absolutely fabulous. It was difficult to figure out this part, but I basically just stuffed them through both of the inner circles and tied one of them to the pole, which would be used to hold the cow, and then it was all secure. I'm going to be doing the reveal a bit different this time, just so that I can show you all of the little bits and pieces up close first, and then I will do the grand reveal at the end. So let's talk about the project. Starting off with the UFO. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I mean, it looks pretty much just like my sketch, just a bit more fabulous and a lot more colorful. I talked about it a little in the voiceover, but I put off adding the string lights until the end just because my mind was just being boggled as to how to do that, because I didn't know how to like space the beads and everything. But then I just found like this 2-foot long strand of party beads, or like a party necklace, and all my crafting stuff, and so hey, I chopped that up and that is working swimmingly. Another thing that I'm really glad that I did is I went super heavy with the colored pencil. I just added about 3 to 4 layers, but I'm really glad I did because the color is so vivid now, and I'm glad that I even went over and outlined everything with a deeper color, or, well, mainly just in pink. So it makes everything really pop, and I think it looks so good. One thing that I did not do is on the bottom. In my original plan, in my sketch, I said that I wanted to add these glow-in-the-dark stars, and I really did want to do that. However, the smallest star would have taken up that entire space right there, and it just would have really taken away from the stars that I painted on. So I'm like, hey, this looks fabulous as is, so I said goodbye to those. Aside from the UFO, another thing that I did that I'm so happy that I finally got to do again is working with clay. So here's the cow. I will throw up much better b-roll that's actually in focus and that you can see everything, but oh my gosh, I'm so happy with this. Oh my god, it looks just like a My Sims Kingdom cow. I grew up with that game, literally one of the first video games that I ever remember playing. I could not even read, and the fact that everything was being spoken in Simlish, that didn't really help. But hey, one thing that I did know is that the critters were so cute in that game. If I could go back in time and show this to little me, I think I'd give myself a high five. One thing about this cow that you probably saw is that when I began sculpting the skeleton and then I applied the clay, it wasn't looking too good. It was looking quite fuzzy per se, and honestly in that moment I was thinking, should I just make this into a sky bison? But no, I'm glad I did not. However, I might have to make a sky bison in the future, but I was already just so behind at this point, and well, I wasn't behind. I was just sick, and then I couldn't girl boss, and so I felt as though I was behind. So I'm glad that I followed through with my cow, and it looks beautiful. And the other thing that I made with clay is my alien. I tried to dress like her today. I mean, I obviously don't have pink hair anymore. I could have thrown on my wig that I wore for my anyways, but yeah, I wore blue. I have my little pink necklace type thing, orange, kinda. Yeah, I don't really have a cutesy little yellowy orange flower headband, but close enough. But also, I wore my DIY pants that have a Pikmin on them, so I feel like that is very fitting. Out of everything in this project, I definitely changed up her design the most. In my sketch, I had her in this cutesy little dress, and then I even had legs on her, but I'm like, she's gonna be sitting, and I don't feel like doing that, and I feel like they're gonna crack off, so I'm glad I didn't do that. Instead, I gave her a luxurious little robe. So luxurious. And I also gave her a slightly different hairstyle. I still stuck with the curls, but what I had drawn, I knew I could not do. You'll see this better in the B-roll, but I also added a touch of glitter on her necklace and also along her headband there. That glitter glue is 15 plus years old, so this is a little sustainable DIY, okay? And because I have not worked with clay in such a long time, one very important thing that I forgot is that clay shrinks when it dries. So the skeleton is sticking out of the bottom. I mean, you can see it's not level. So when she sits, she's like kind of rocking back and forth. So I do have a plan. I'm just gonna put some washi tape on her butt and stick her into the UFO. It can easily be removed, but that will certainly keep her in place. But other than that, she is exquisite. Yes, she did have some cracks along her head and along the dress or robe, whatever. And yeah, some of her curls did break off. I just think of Jimmy Neutron's mom when her hair freezes and she breaks off a chunk. Anyways, yes, there were some cracks, but that is nothing a little extra clay and acrylic paint can't fix. Here's a little tip when you glaze with acrylic paint. I mean, I know it's just painting, but it's on top of clay, so it's kind of like a glaze, maybe. But acrylic paint is buildable. I mean, it's plastic. So in some of the crevices on her dress, I literally just added a few layers of paint and it filled in all of those little dips and holes and crevices and whatnot, and hey, she looks wonderful. Also, same with the cow. Yes, I did fill in some of the cracks with clay. However, this is mostly smoothed out with a bunch of paint. Now to put this all together for the big grand reveal, I added some more soil into my struggling ZZ plant so that there's a bit more stability when I stick the UFO in there. But also, hopefully this extra soil just adds some good vibes and promotes some growth. Because what in the world, I've had this plant for over a year. It has not died, but it has not grown at all. Anyway, so there's soil in the pot. I just need to stick the UFO in there. We'll put the stake on the UFO, then put the UFO in the pot, then take my cow and attach it to the laser beams, and then I will take washi tape and put it on my alien, and then I will put her in the UFO, and then I will plug the UFO in, and then I think that'll be it for the grand reveal. So, Grogu, take us away. Starting from well over a week ago when I filmed that intro, up until now, my body has not been audioing. Obviously, you can hear it, but a few days ago, this whole past week, my voice has sounded like there's been rocks in a blender, or like someone has just been revving the engine, or actually just like the engine won't start at all. So I'm glad I can finally speak to you and give you this outro. But I also apologize for the delay in this video, my 50th video, because I have been kind of teasing this for a while now. But hey, here it is. Oh, and by the way, happy spooky season! AKA the most wonderful time of the year. I just posted a very glamorous and gothic makeup tutorial inspired by drag queen Got Mick. It's also a hair tutorial, so check that out if you're looking for a little inspo. But also, I already have not one, but 2 alien makeup tutorials on my channel, and surprise, surprise, they're both with green skin. I guess I just like green skin, okay? So those are fabulous inspiration as well if you are looking for a little inspiration. Plus, be sure to watch my favorite lookbook that I have filmed thus far, my Halloween costume lookbook, with looks inspired from movies like Scream and Hereditary and Scary Movie and even SpongeBob. Yes, so go check that out in the description below. Additionally, I also have some very festive live stream planned for this whole month and probably even next month as well, because who cares about November, right? Anyways, so you can catch me every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and every Friday at 4 p.m. for some gaming and relaxing ASMR and eco bricks and embroidering and drawing and sketching and coloring and all that fun stuff. But also, the festive things are going to be very festive. And cross your fingers, biddies and toes, that the Mucinex man leaves me alone so I can actually get this stuff done. Oh my gosh, I hate not girl bossing. Also, I have a very fabulous and bewitching video planned for this month as well, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to leave a like on this video because, heck man, you made it this far. I can only assume that you like this content. And if you don't leave a like, well, I heard that Mars needs more moms. And be sure to subscribe and turn on my post notifications so that this girl boss can continue to girl boss and create more DIYs like this fabulous thing that I have today. And before you go, I am urging you to visit the links in my bio, also available in the description below, to learn more about the modern day slavery and child labor that is happening in the Congo, along with the genocide that has been going on throughout Palestine, Sudan, and East Turkistan. I am also urging you to check your voter registration status. You can do this by visiting the link in my bio, also in the description. It is no surprise that these upcoming elections are crucial, so please do your part, use your privilege, and vote. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be kind to the planet. And be sure to be kind to the universe and all of its little creatures. I hope everyone has a super safe, super fabulous, and super enjoyable holiday season. I'm sending you all lots of love, and I will see you on my next live stream or video. And yeah, I gotta go now because my ride is here. Okay. Be sure to leave this. Okay, this is not a blooper, however, I have to include this because I mentioned In the Tall Grass, which has Patrick Wilson, so I just have to include this. Back in the day when I was new to the horror movie genre, movie game, whatever, I was watching mostly the Conjuring series. Love that series, but of course it features Patrick Wilson, and I became quite drawn to him because, hello, look at him. But also in that series he's wearing mostly like a 60s 70s getup, and anyone wearing that is just hot in my eyes. So then I looked into him, and then I found out that he can sing like really well, and in fact he's actually a musical girly. So I found this little snippet and I posted it because I was just like, what the what? This is incredible. And I didn't know that he could sing at all. This was new to me. I had only ever known him from his horror movies. And boy, did people have something to say about that. I got comment after comment that was like,
how could you not know this? Fake fan.
How could you not know he was in Phantom of the Opera? He's known for his singing.
You people are so young.
Okay, age has literally nothing to do with your knowledge of movies and content, but that's besides the fact. I had only ever known this man from watching horror movies. I am not a musical person at all, unless we're talking animated musicals with animals or the classic Singing in the Rain. But other than that, musicals are not up my alley. But the fact that most of the nasty comments were coming from people who were like 30, 40 plus years old is just, it's funny, because like, wow, I'm glad that you're getting reception from your parents' basement. But excuse me, if these people really want to get into it, Patrick Wilson is also Aquaman's half-brother and the former ruler of Atlantis. So...
Loving you is not a choice and not much reason to rejoice. Is not a choice and not much reason to rejoice. Loving you